Alright guys, it's Charlie Tango 1994 and I'm back with another YouTube video. Out in the garden today, and I've bought my radio bag, the rucksack that I use when I go out on DX activations. Bought it out for a number of reasons. First of all, last time I was out on a Sunday afternoon, I sort of threw everything in the bag. It's not very tidy, so it will need straightening out, and there's quite a lot of stuff in there. And the other reason is because there is a lot of stuff in there, the bag is really heavy. The last time I went out, I had a bit of a longer walk and a steeper climb to get up to where I was going by foot, and it was just too hefty. The weather as it is so far this summer anyway, it's been really warm, so a heavy bag, a steep climb, sun beating on your head, and warm temperatures, and the combination of all that made it a bit challenging. So I wanted to look at a way to, one, organise my bag, but also look at what's in there, see what can be removed, what can be changed, to try and bring the weight of the pack down. And on the left there is like a luggage scale. We use it when we go abroad because you've got to check your suitcases, your hold luggage is under a certain weight. So I just wanted to get a measurement as to what it is now, and then after we've kind of tweaked what goes in the bag and all of that sort of stuff, just see what it weighs then. And then obviously the final test is next time I go out, just to see if I'm more comfortable carrying it, because as I say, at the moment it's a pretty hefty weight. So first job, let's get a weight on it, work out just how much it weighs, and then we'll pull everything out, get it reorganised, and I'll talk you through what's in the bag. It's a bit tricky to film, but show me 12.3 pound, which, so put it on the scales, and it will show me just over 12 pound, which seems very light actually in terms of weight, but I'll tell you, when it's on my back, it's enough weigh you down. So alright, we've got a start point. I'll take some bits out of the bag, we'll have a look through that, and then I'll show you what I'm going to change or remove, and then we'll do another weigh in and see what that saves in terms of pack weight. So I've completely emptied the bag now, and actually not as much stuff as I imagined when you get it all out. I mean, there's a fair amount, and then everything in there is pretty essential when you're out doing a DX activation, but as I say, at the moment it's way too heavy. So I wanted to understand what are the heavy bits, what can we change, and all of that. So to talk you through what we've got, let's go this way. The radio bag, so the stuff that actually contains the CB stuff, is the little black bag at the front there, and what I'll take with me is a SWA meter, the rig itself obviously, and then to the left is a cigarette lighter power supply. So if I do want to run it mobile, I tend to actually run it off the battery there on the right hand side, but if I did want to run it off the car, then I've got the cable to be able to do that. Don't really use it that often, but it's there anyway. Behind that is my tarp, absolutely essential item. Tended to use it more in the sun than in the rain, but it's there for both purposes, and obviously the wind, but that is an absolutely essential item, and that needs to come with us whatever we take. And then I've got a ground sheet. Again, I would consider it pretty essential. What I want to do is create a barrier between the ground and then the electrical equipment and me, to be honest. So, you know, if I want to lay on the ground or sit on the ground, there's a good chance that certainly at some stage it's going to be muddy or wet or whatever, just generally damp. So it's always a good idea to have a ground sheet. It's not a very big thing, as you can see, it's bright orange, but other than that, it works very well. You've probably seen it in a few of my videos before. And then talking about sitting down, I always take a little stool with me. I don't like sort of stooping over for long periods of time, and I just appreciate having, you know, a proper seat to sit on. So although it's not very big or very heavy, it does come with me. And then in terms of weather conditions and all of that, I always take a waterproof jacket with me. Never had reason to use it yet, but I don't want to be miles and miles away from the car and the weather be terrible and not have any sort of waterproof covering. Obviously I've got the shelter for when I'm not moving, but if I want to get out of the situation, I want to be walking down the hill or whatever, I always pack a waterproof jacket just to prevent any major issues with that. Then below that is my cook set, so Crusader cook set I've done a review of in the past. I won't pull all that out. My coffee mug, which is again I would say an essential item when I'm out and about, and a small survival kit. It's got some fire starter stuff in there as well, more for the stove than to start an actual fire, but that comes with me, and that is quite a hefty weight, particularly when it's full of water, but I would say it's essential. There's another idea that perhaps if the bag is really super heavy, I can obviously strap this to my belt or whatever. That is an option, not something I've done before, but something that could be done for sure. Then below that is another Hexi stove, more of a backup than anything else, but it's got some paraffin cubes in there, which I sometimes have used with the Crusader cook set. There's a bottle of sort of fire starter stuff, or alcohol gel it is really. You put a light to it and it burns, so you put a portion of that, a certain amount of that, in the bottom of the Crusader cook set, and it will heat water for you and stuff like that. So more than 3 choices there in terms of making a cup of coffee. That's primarily why it's there, so I can certainly slim down on that. This little box once contained my drone. You'll have seen in a previous video that I crash landed it in a field recently. Still got the box, don't know why I hung on to it, it's just been in the bag, but that drone is no more. I might actually replace it at some stage, and there's some extra batteries and bits and pieces that could be useful, so I'll probably stick this on the shelf at some point, but it doesn't need to go back in the bag, so there's another thing that we can do with that. I've got a bunch of different paracord and tent pegs, obviously to put the mast up, to get the aerial in the air, and also to be used with the tarpaulin that I've got, although I've got some extra bungees and other bits and pieces that I use when I'm erecting that. It just gives me a few choices. Again, probably more than I need, but in order to enable me to construct a shelter and also put the mast up, I need a fairly decent amount of cordage, and I've gone with the sort of luminescent yellow and green, just that if it's ever up in a low light or I leave it up overnight, I just want to make sure that we know where the cords are, so we don't garrot ourselves or trip over them or whatever. It's just useful to do that. Above that is my very special T2LT that was sent to me by Stuart. Used it once out in the field now, and did a great job for me. Great little aerial, not heavy at all, as you can see, very compact in terms of the job it does, so quite happy with that. And then my other T2LT is just there. I've had it in the bag just because it kind of lives in the bag, but it's not absolutely essential, so this is one item that I won't be putting back in the bag when I wear it again. And then pretty much last is the gear that I use just for YouTube. So there's a couple of external microphones, carriers for the actual camera or for the phone, and then a couple of tripods. Just useful when certainly when I'm filming the rig, that I just leave it standing in a static position, and then it's much easier to leave it running for a while and film you guys on the radio. So that's how it's done. And then lastly, a little bag that all of that goes into. So what I want to do now is just weigh the bag again, see what it is without anything in it, just so we've got a control, a measure on that, and then start loading it back up. I'll show you some other stuff that I'm going to be thinking about using, really because it's a bit more lightweight and a bit more portable, and we'll see if that makes much of a difference to the weight of the pack. So we'll be back to you shortly. So looking at the empty pack, it's just over £4 which tells us that there was about £10 of weight in there when it's fully loaded. Let's see what we can get it down to. So I've packed away most of the stuff, and already it's noticeably lighter. I have omitted so far the radio bag, so there's all the cordage in there, and swar meter and bits and pieces, battery, and the radio, because I know that is going to be quite a hefty weight. But I'm going to show you something else in a second, which is my handheld CB radio, which I want to try using with the TLT, which I want to try with the T2LT. So that's one thing I'm going to swap, which I do expect to give us slightly less weight. I could also, as I'm talking, because I'm thinking about batteries now, that I could live without the portable battery. But again, it's not that heavy. Let's see how we get on, and if I don't think we've lost enough weight, that's something else that we can try and remove. And in terms of bits that we haven't packed, there's the other T2LT. Now, there is a thinking that it might be worth having two aerials, because if there's ever an issue with one of them, you've always got the other one to use. I think it will depend on how remote I'm going, you know, how difficult it is to get back to the car. What I could do is have another bag in the back of the car with kind of spares and odds and bods, so that if anything breaks or needs replacing, it's easier to get back to the car rather than leaving it at home. And the only other thing was the Hexi stove. I only had it for the fuel, so I've got other options for fuel which I've packed away now, so there's a little bit less weight on that. And then obviously the box that the drone came in, there's not much point carrying that around. It doesn't weigh anything, but we'll remove it just for the sake of housekeeping, really. Normally when I'm out on a DX, I use a Colt 295, features in a lot of my videos, and it's a great little radio. It's got brilliant receive on it, but it is pretty heavy compared to other options that I might use. And I've said before, I want to try and get up to sort of more extreme locations this year, so the weight of the radio becomes quite an important factor. So this year I went out and bought myself an old handheld CB radio, and I've added some bits to that. So I've got an external microphone, a handheld mic, and an adapter for a T2LT or a PL259, so I can attach any aerial to the handheld. I don't have to hold the thing to my face, which is one thing. It's the main reason for having the separate microphone. And obviously it'll work with a bigger aerial, it'll work with any aerial, as opposed to the little whip aerial that it comes with, or the little rubber duck aerial that it comes with. And I'm hoping that that's where a lot of the weight is going to be saved. The only question mark I've got around it is the 295 is kind of known and trusted, brilliant receive, but it's also easier to film. I can set a tripod in front of it and just leave it running, whereas I'll have to come up with something that could work with the handheld. But it's not a major issue. If I'm going to save weight in the pack and get out further afield because of that, I'll come up with an alternative when it comes to making YouTube videos. In any case, that's what we're going to give a try. The only additional bits that would come with me that wouldn't fit in the bag, obviously the mast itself, I just tend to carry that or use it as a walking pole or whatever. And in the past I've taken some bivvy poles which are just strapped to the mast, to be honest, so it's like a single pole, which works quite well and doesn't sort of impact the weight of the pack. So in terms of what we're doing here, loading the bag out, they're not relevant, but I just thought I'd point out, obviously I'd take the mast, and there's some other stuff that I'd carry in my hands rather than put in the bag. So that's the bag reloaded. Can tell already just moving it around that it's a little bit lighter without the other Colt 295 CB radio in it, but I wanted to just use the scales again just to confirm what we've saved in terms of weight, and then this will get tucked away until the next outing. So might do something next weekend. We've got the Buxton Bash coming up in a couple of weeks as well, which I've bought tickets for, so plan is for me to be up there for that weekend. But I'll try and get in another DX before that, so I think that's mid-July or late July, Put details in the video description, but I would like to get another one done. The sun is, or the weather conditions are just perfect at the moment, perhaps a little bit too warm, so I want to take advantage of the good weather while it's still around. It's not going to last forever, so perhaps next Sunday I'll get out, but for this week I'm just going to focus on getting my bag sorted out for the next trip, all of that. So let's get this on the scales, see what it weighs, and then we'll do our roundup. So yeah, with the bits taken out, it's about £10, so somehow we've lost about £4 of weight, which is pretty good. Much happy with that. So we'll finish up then. Done the job today, got the bag reorganised, got the weight down a little bit, knowing that if we take the portable handheld, I'll probably switch back to the Colt 295 for the next couple of trips, but when I go out to the more extreme places I'm planning to go to this summer, I may well swap it out just to save a bit of weight, but it's all good. As always, I'm posting on YouTube every week, so if you like my videos, don't forget to hit the like button, leave a comment and subscribe if you've not done so already, and I'll catch up with you in another YouTube video soon. Cheers. Hope you enjoyed watching this video, and as a thank you to you, particularly if you're new to CB Radio or returning to it after many years, I've put together a free information series called The Beginner's Guide to CB Radio, which I'm sharing with all of my subscribers. To find out more, click the link in the top right corner now. And new for 2018 is my CB Radio playlist.